Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And the Sharks have beaten Leinster 28 points to 23 down in Durban. A very close match, which really did come down to the final movement, as Leinster actually won a penalty after the 80th minute and had a couple of phases before a TMO decision was required to see whether there was grounding or not in a last-ditch effort, which would have probably won Leinster the game because there was a try, would have been a try right next to the poles. But the Sharks doing enough, despite maybe not being at their best. But before we dissect the game, please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Now, there were a lot of talk about, Leinster's B team. Leinster left a lot of their stars behind, but this was never an easy game for the Sharks before the year even kicked off. And I think that it would be quite fair to say that we still have not seen the Sharks really come out and demonstrate exactly what they're all about. I think somebody in the stream actually, said they are a lottery team, and that was probably the perfect description because they are so inconsistent. And we saw moments today of a really good side. We saw a very impressive scrum, but we saw a line that didn't always work, and they actually scored a try off a poor line out from Mongi Manambi. And it's quite frustrating to see a side with so many good players not being able to really gel. Now, the conditions didn't help. It was quite wet today, and the field was sort of being cut up quite a lot underfoot. So it was always going to be quite a difficult match, but they just never really put Leinster away. In fact, Leinster actually opened the scoring through Scott Penny. It was a very nice try. Maxwell Pimpy then grabbed an intercept try a couple minutes later, so it was level after 20 minutes, but then a penalty from Frawley and then a very nice try from Tommy O'Brien in the 35th minute, converted by Kieran Frawley, had Leinster well ahead. But then the Sharks hit back just on the cusp of half time. A very nice counter-attack, pretty poor defense, but a very nice counter-attack from Apley Fassi, who then offloaded to Jaden Hendrickse, who went under the poles. So at half time, there wasn't too much in it, and it started off well for Leinster. They got the points in the first half, but the Sharks then started to really sort of impose themselves. Now, they picked a very big pack for a very good reason. And they got a couple of penalties. They kicked to the corner, and Bongi Manambi went over in the 47th minute, and Curran Bosch converted. However, discipline was a bit of an issue for the Sharks. They then conceded a penalty almost immediately, and Leinster managed to kick themselves back ahead. However, it was two yellow cards really that were the end of Leinster. 53rd minute, Josh Murphy sent off repeated infringements. The same thing with Lee Barron 10 minutes later. So they were down to 13 for a passage of play. And then Percy Buthelezi eventually going over in the 64th minute. The Sharks looked a little bit teethless on attack. They were very much picking up and going and keeping within the forwards, not really getting anywhere. We didn't really see too many drawing and pass. When they did try and use a backline move, there was often a knock on. So maybe a little bit of creativity, probably lacking a little bit in the Durban side. The try actually came off the back of the scrum, which makes sense because they had dominated the scrum the entire evening, and a good scrum allowed Percy Buthelezi a nice sort of run in, and he just sort of bulked his way over, really. But then, as I said, right up to at the end, there's a scrum, there's a knock-on from Leinster, there's a scrum for the Sharks, and then they conceded a scrum penalty. Scooter and Kuno went underneath the pressure. And Kieran from Furin then got yellow card for strolling offside, but Leinster couldn't make it count, and the Sharks get a bonus point victory. So that's the only thing that really matters, isn't it? It doesn't really matter if it's a B team or whatever. A bonus point victory against Leinster is a huge thing to have. Now, if we look at the stats, Leinster had more possession, 56% to 44% rather. They scored just 2 tries, but had a lot of penalty goals. Sharks beat 5 defenders to Leinster's 4, 3 clean breaks to 1. Sharks succeeded 18 turnovers on the defense. Leinster missed 20 tackles and made 89. The Sharks made 73 and missed 8. Leinster winning 9 turnovers. Curran Bosch left quite a few points out there. He missed 2 penalty goals, so 6 points out there. Kieran Frawley, on the other hand, was flawless off the kicking team. At the breakdown, Sharks 1%, 38% of the Rucks won. Leinster 61%. Over the set plays, 2 lines lost from the Sharks, but also 3 lines lost from Leinster, so it was a pretty scrappy game. A scrum lost a piece as well, so it wasn't amazing rugby because the conditions didn't really allow for it. But if you look at the discipline, 15 penalties conceded by the Sharks, 13 conceded by Leinster. So an issue for both teams, but you can't be conceding 15 penalties across a match. Players who played well, I thought that the Sharks, I thought that Marcus Pimpy worked quite hard. Apelele Fassi was quite good on attack. He did have a bit of a defensive error, which did lead to a try. For Leinster, I thought that Kieran Forley played pretty well, made quite a few tackles. I thought Brian Deeney worked hard. I thought Max Deegan was quite quiet. Scott Penny made a lot of tackles. Tommy O'Brien I thought was pretty impressive for Leinster. But yeah, at the end of the day, despite it not being Leinster's best team, it's a win against Leinster, and it doesn't matter what sort of team you play. It's all about getting the results on the day. But for Leinster, they'll sit there thinking, well, that's a nice testament to our depth because we could have won that game. And we still have so many players that will come back into the starting lineup. So it's a nice big boost for Leinster, but the important thing for the Sharks is its points. And that, puts them at 51 points, Scarlets on 43. So they're looking more and more likely that they're going to potentially make the playoffs, but they do have to try and still find a bit of space up there because there has to be a Welsh team in the playoffs, which will be a little bit of an issue for them. But yeah, let me know what you thought about the game down in the comments below. Please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.